Welcome to a new format, question of the day, market question of the day. So Toby, what's the market question of the day that you have?
Okay, so the big headline is that the Dow is down 200 points. And I mean, I kind of understand, what that means in a general level because, it's always Dow up is good, Dow down is bad, right? But other than that, I don't really know what that means. Like, how do they decide that it's down? Is it just particular stocks? I mean, or is it, there's an average, I guess, somewhere in there, but I'm not really sure how this works. So if you could mansplain it to me.
I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
So the Dow is a mathematical index that tracks like 20 or 30 stocks.
Okay.
So as the 20 or 30 stocks move, the Dow index moves.
Okay. So it's not all the stocks. It's just
No.
these 20 or 30. And how do they decide which 20 or 30 to look at? And does it change?
It does. Normally when something becomes incredibly prestigious, okay, it gets included in the Dow 20. It's sort of like, it's like, welcome to the hallowed halls of equities.
So what are the Dow 20 right now?
Okay, well, I don't know them all, but there's like, Apple, JP Morgan, Johnson & Johnson, Coca-Cola, all that they call the blue chips.
Okay, cool.
All right. So in other words, the blue chips, they move up and down. The Dow Industrials move up and down.
Okay, so it's just like a temperature reading a little bit with these top, most popular,
right,
famous stocks, right? And so if it's down, people get really upset about that because does that somehow affect everything else? Like if those big stocks are down, does that mean, if you're doing wheat futures, that's bad for them, or it's still case by case, right?
Right. It's case by case. There are broader averages, like say the S&P 500 that cover, say, 500 stocks. So what those indices is what they're called. What they do, they can affect other markets. They definitely affect crypto. They can affect bonds or be affected by bonds. Now, wheat, not necessarily, right? So what happens in equities, can affect, the financial world. It can be impacted by oil. All right. So intermarket technical analysis is a real thing. But, stocks, the Dow, interestingly, is more psychological because that's what the media reports to the public. Dow up, Dow down. Yeah. That's what the public understands.
Yeah. And I think that's really interesting. And I did have a question about, the connectedness with this and crypto. But even before that, the psychological aspects of it is super, super interesting, and of course you're an expert at looking at these psychological aspects and trying to figure out where the market will go. And, I just have my pretty cards. That's all I have. But it's a similar thing, right? You're reading the energy of the market just with different routes. Excuse me. So how does this, this affect crypto? If it goes down, is that good for crypto, bad for crypto in general? When the Dow drops, what typically happens?
Okay, good question. So crypto and stocks, they're called risk assets or risky assets. Generally, they move together.
Okay.
Right. So for example, if the Federal Reserve says, no more risky assets, they can both go down. Okay. That's what happened in 2022.
Okay.
Now, what's happened this year is because the SEC went after crypto, right? Crypto went down, but in the equity market, they're pricing in the AI narrative. Like, how is AI going to help everybody from Microsoft to Johnson & Johnson?
Yeah.
So this has been a huge excuse to bid stocks up, right? Creating a very rare divergence. Now, that divergence has been sort of unwound lately because stocks came off at the end of the quarter. That's a big marker point for big portfolio managers. And of course, as equities went down, Bitcoin went up 25% in 5 days, right? Kind of like 2 or 3 weeks before I thought it would, right? It caught everybody off guard when this sort of divergence snapped back, right? So people may be taking profits in equities. You talked about like stability, no rocket move, no crash, right? But the stability in equities can help crypto.
Oh, well, that's good.
It can really help crypto, because if equities aren't going down, there's no excuse to sell crypto. It's almost like, the barn door is open and the horse, the fast horse can run free.
Ah, okay. That's really good. Yeah, and that speaks to, we've been, in a lot of today's readings, we've been getting a lot of the Emperor card keeps coming up,
That's right.
And so that it definitely shows, stability, a connection with legacy. So how does that, I've heard you were talking about decoupling, and I understand the kind of the principle, but how do you see that narrative, the decoupling narrative, fitting into this?
Okay, well, in my roadmap, because of the solar eclipses this year, I'm expecting an event in legacy in September and October.
We keep getting those cards coming up. So
that's right. So if there's an event that affects the economy, or it's a geopolitical event, I know we've talked about the Middle East, like, for example, if oil goes down a lot, that could destabilize governments over there. Okay, anyway, back to the markets. I'm sort of expecting a correction in equities, or a problem with the banking system or legacy assets, okay, that causes people to really run into crypto. Okay. So it's either legacy goes nowhere or legacy goes down a lot, and then crypto goes. Okay. So, I mean, this is something that we've talked about, right? Like, you talked about stability in October. Now, to have a laugh, I didn't exactly get the interpretation right off the cards, but now that you've womansplained the cards to me, right? That
explaining. Thank you.
Okay, and you could get that drop or something in October where there's like a base, a floor, or stability.
Yeah.
So it's unusual. It's great, I think, that you're getting kind of a floor underneath crypto potentially, as there's sort of that situation in legacy.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's really exciting. Yeah. So should we pull a few cards?
Yeah, please.
Let's do. So we're going to pull some cards on what this crazy market drop means, right?
Okay.
Let's start with that. First card, the energy we're moving out of. Poverty, sadness. This could be a lot of people
missing out.
I know I've got a little of that. And the energy we have right now. Oh, great. Stability. Here we go again. Yeah. And they're celebrating. Foundation of the house is being built. Okay. So it's dropping, but it's still pretty stable.
Okay.
I would say. Restriction in the future. Yeah. Yeah. Not a lot of growth coming up. What that says. So this could be an indication of that decoupling that you're talking about. A lot of restriction, and this is something that has been coming to me too about, the tech bubble. It doesn't feel like it's going to be the crazy bubble that we had previously years ago, but yeah, a little bit of disappointment in that, like some people are celebrating, I did it, and other people are like, not so great, right? But the prices have gone up so much. It really feels like that's one of the things that's pushing this move into crypto, because people still want to get in technology, and this is a little bit easier starting point.
Right, because there's a famous economist on Twitter with like 1 million followers, right?
You mean me? Oh, no, yes, I don't have 1 million followers.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm not an economist either. I just play with pretty cards. That's what I do.
Right, and this guy was saying, you had an exponential rise in tech, right? So he's calling it the exponential era. Exponential meaning how things move. So he's saying we went from exponential in tech stocks to possibly exponential in crypto.
Because
we talked about, we had a little off-camera talk about, like
a lot off camera.
Right. About, hey, the lows may be in, right? And then, you were talking about a possible, buy point in the summer, right? Or you should have bought already.
Well, and you showed me the little teacup
and handling Bitcoin.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're going to talk about it in one of your coming shows. But yeah, just the readings that I'm getting, it's that there's going to be wobble over the summer and stability in the fall, but that we may have missed the extreme low point, and that this is the buy time. I mean, it came to me a month ago. I was like, oh, this is when you buy. Yeah, this is when you buy. And so, yeah, I don't, it doesn't feel like there's going to be any really great drops. It also doesn't feel like there's going to be any real taking off until after the fall. So it's not a bad time to buy now. I mean, as you've got the teacup thing, you can do your video, we'll teacup it. Put the pinkies out. We're going to teacup it. I don't know. That's teabagging. That's a whole other thing.
That's a whole other thing. All right. So that's it for crypto and equities.